That makes no sense to me. Every one of us has to look in the mirror and decide, are we going to try to make it better, or are we going to make it worse?
And this morning, we are learning from Utah Governor Spencer Cox that Robinson's roommate was, in fact, his boyfriend, who is a male transitioning to a female. The governor adding that the boyfriend has been cooperating with authorities and had no idea that Robinson was planning an attack that would end in Charlie Kirk's death.
The suspect has not been cooperating so far. There are a couple things that we can confirm that have been reported. We can confirm that again, according to family and people that we're interviewing, he does come from a conservative family, but his ideology was very different than his family, and so that's part of it.
Now, as authorities build their case, these videos obtained by NBC News show a gray Dodge Challenger driving near campus Wednesday morning, matching details shared by investigators. About an hour later, another clip appears to show the 22-year-old walking by in an outfit that investigators believe he swapped before returning for the fatal shooting.
We do know that the roommate that we had originally talked about, we can confirm that roommate is a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female. So we know that piece. I will say that person has been very cooperative with authorities.
What happened?
He's a speaker, famous guy, Speaker Kirk.
Where
he just got shot in the middle of his speech. I'm in the parking lot. Everybody's running.
I got nightmares in my head. I fear thoughts build up until I can't feel. My mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head.
I woke up for work and saw his picture and immediately recognized him.
Jada Funk, still stunned. Her former classmate of 10 years is now being held for murder, describing him as a quiet, intelligent student.
I don't know what could have transpired to kind of turn him away from everything that he was working towards and doing well at, but
why behind this? Again, we're all drawing lots of conclusions and how someone like this could be radicalized. And I think that those are important questions for us to ask and important questions for us to answer.
I thought it was very interesting that there was a contradiction in early reports, with some saying that he lived at home while others said that he had a roommate. Now we're learning more about that contradiction. Lance Twiggs, who lived with Tyler Robinson in a 3-bedroom apartment in St. George, Utah, turned Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin over to police. Now, there's a clue there as well. It's a 3-bedroom apartment, which suggests there's another roommate as well. Now, I've already seen some folks on social media leaping onto this piece of news to justify themselves. But the fact is, the friend who is rumored to be transgender, actually, I don't think that's a rumor, I think that is confirmed, didn't act as an accessory, but rather as a foil to his own friend. In other words, Twiggs seemed to recognize the needs of the greater good. That's you and me, that's everybody. But I'm guessing the greater good out there will turn him into a villain, a little like the twisted logic of the Watts case, where the real villain in the Chris Watts case isn't the killer, but his mistress. I do wonder, when we talk about the villain of the story, who is the real villain of the story, according to you? Well, before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. By the way, thank you very much for your comments, even those that disagree. You know, this is also a forum where we can hopefully agree and disagree in kind of a safe space, and hopefully not get too agitated while we're doing so. If you're finding this analysis worthwhile, please hit the thanks button and let's get started. A 22-year-old wannabe professional gamer who lived with Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin gave cops incriminating text messages leading to his arrest. Lance Twiggs turned over Tyler Robinson, who lived with him in a 3-bedroom apartment in St. George, Utah. That's according to the Daily Mail. Twiggs showed police texts from Robinson about stashing a gun linked to Wednesday's shooting of the prominent conservative activist at Utah Valley University, a law enforcement affidavit said. So what stands out to you in that description? Because it's a big clue, huge. Well, it ought to be this. A 22-year-old, here it is, wannabe professional gamer who lived with Tyler Robinson. What does that tell us? Well, it clearly indicates that gaming wasn't just at a normal level. I've seen people say, well, I was isolated, I was shy, I was bullied, I never did this or that. You could, by the same token, say, well, I'm a gamer and I'm not this or that. But it's the level of gaming. It's a very extreme level of gaming. And you might say, well, I game to an extreme level. Yeah, but are the other circumstances in your life the same? And again, we're not trying to justify or rationalize or sympathize. We're simply trying to understand what happened and what the criminal psychology was in order to see into the situation. Just to know, like almost from a prosecutorial perspective, what is the objective reality here? What are the facts of this case? And so in terms of the gaming, well, it wasn't at a normal level. It's not what it would be for the average 20-something. This was intense gaming, extreme gaming, and it very likely had a huge influence on Robinson. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about something else. Okay, but this is something we know for a fact, and we'll get to those other things. Let's talk about this for the time being. And let me ask you, do you know if anyone is talking about this at this moment? Like, have you seen anyone bringing it up? Now let's look at a generic gameplay element from Helldiver, a game Robinson was apparently very interested in, and I'm not sure if that's confirmed. Some people are speculating that it could be, but there are other games that I think there's more certainty about. But anyway, here's a look at the generic gameplay elements in Helldiver. Right? There are tangible benefits to multiplayer as teammates can help a downed ally recover, as well as provide healing or ammunition. Here it is. Several heavy weapons come with a backpack that allows a second player to help reload. But the important part is heavy weapons come with a backpack. Ring any bells? How about this? Helldivers is set in a dystopian universe where humanity is ruled by a managed democracy, an alteration of a contemporary democracy where the outcome of elections are more predictable. So there's sort of a political element to these games as well that's designed into the psychology of the games. Another thing that I've personally found quite interesting, because I've done a little bit of gaming myself, is this whole idea of someone who shoots, runs along the roof and sort of jumps off the building. That is something you see very often in games, where you propel the character and they're running all over the place, almost like parkour. And so what you see in these grainy CCTV images is almost a proxy for kind of a video game. That's exactly what they often look like. And what is fascinating, psychologically speaking, is that it's not as if Robinson was some worldly, secular kid, as I know many are going to try to portray him. We still do want to know a bit more about him. What was his politics, or what were his politics? He was actually from a Mormon family, and it was a youth pastor, that's a friend of the family, who convinced him to hand himself into the authority. So presumably the Mormon faith, or certainly people that were practicing that, still had some kind of influence over him. And here's a source for that story, CNN, where they say the father persuaded Robinson to confide in a youth pastor. So it's possible that Robinson didn't completely confide in his father. So that alone is also quite interesting. Here's more from the Daily Mail. Authorities are yet to confirm a motive, but Utah Governor Spencer Cox told the Wall Street Journal that Robinson was deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology. So that'll be quite interesting to find out exactly how that happened, where that happened, what that process was, what the source of all of that was. Now you might say, well, it was simply where he studied, but as far as I know, he wasn't studying at college, he was studying at a technical college. And I mean, that might be the answer, but one just would like to know specifically what the answer is to that. How did that happen? Where is that happening? Is that's something we need to look at from the perspective of taking preventative measures? And I remember when the whole Elliot Rodger thing happened, wasn't there a kind of investigation into 4chan and all that kind of thing? And when I was writing the book Slaughter about mass shooters, I seem to remember something similar to that with Adam Lanza. Anyway, South Utah native Twig studied at Utah Tech University, according to his Facebook page, and that is how the two met, because they both studied at the same Technical University. Robinson, 22, was also taking electrician training at a nearby technical college. Oh, right, that college was Dixie Technical College, so they weren't actually studying at the same school. And I think this raises a very interesting question, is in terms of the political attitudes at these different colleges, how is the one different to the other, if at all? I mean, if you do want to talk about the cultural impact, the impact of, an institution, was his politics institutionalized? But it was in this area, gaming, but like intense gaming, extreme gaming, that these two, Lance Twiggs and Tyler Robinson, what they had in common. According to the Daily Mail, like Robinson, Lance Twiggs was an avid gamer, posting shooting game videos on a TikTok account with a bio, becoming TikTok pro, one terrible video at a time. He posted himself on social media, and here you have it, playing popular games including Apex Legends, Valorant, and Rocket League. Other comical videos he shared included adding spaghetti to an Italian sandwich and microwaving a bottle of Mountain Dew. Friends told the Daily Mail that Robinson and Twiggs were part of a large group chat of dozens of gamer friends, mostly from Robinson's alma mater, Pineview High School, that hosted an online chat network, Discord. And so one would also want to look at Pineview High School. What is the sort of political psychology there? What is institutionalized there? Robinson's alleged incriminating texts to Twiggs were also sent on Discord, according to the affidavit filed Friday. So again, you would want to look at Discord as well. Just what is going on there? What are the guidelines? What are the guardrails? It's also interesting how coy the affidavit has been, seemingly to want to protect someone from the greater good out there. I'm being a little bit sarcastic. Quote, his identity was revealed as separate reports emerged from Fox and the New York Post, which stated that Robinson was living with a transgender partner who is cooperating with the investigation. You can see what's kind of going on here. You've got someone who is helping the investigation, and obviously the investigators kind of want him to keep talking to them, want him to keep cooperating, want him to keep helping them. But there's this sort of feeling that, well, if we tell the world who it is and the world responds, specifically segments respond, this person may stop helping because of the way that he's being treated. And so the article notes, it is unclear if Twiggs is the same person referenced in the reports, and he has not been named in the affidavit. Now, remember I said earlier, it's a 3-bedroom apartment. So is the partner somebody else? Anyway, his grandfather, Jerry Twiggs, told the Daily Mail that he was unable to comment on rumors that he is trans and that there was a transgender motive to Kirk's murder. I don't want to comment on that. I'm not sure what his situation is exactly right now. That's what the grandfather said, adding that he had never met Robinson. So at this point, I think we've got to be careful. I don't know if it's absolutely confirmed that Lance Twiggs is this other person. But let me ask you this. Which part do you think deserves more attention? The gaming side, the transgender side, the religious side, the political side, or a combination of these, or something else? Or social media? What is the objective reality here? The Daily Mail goes on to note, authorities are yet to confirm a motive, but Utah Governor Spencer Cox told the Wall Street Journal that Robinson was, and I mentioned this before, deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology. And so let me ask you a question. Whose fault is that? If you indoctrinated, whose fault is that? If you are indoctrinated with any ideology, and anyone who is indoctrinated believes their ideology, and they believe that the ideology trumps every other ideology, right? Well, the question remains, whose fault is it when someone becomes indoctrinated today? And I think this is an area where I think many of you might disagree with me, and I think this is the tricky area of this entire case. Because on the one hand, I think you can say, you know what, it's each of our personal and individual responsibilities, right? What we end up believing. In other words, our beliefs are our responsibility, right? And so I think it really raises a very interesting question. Is it really still as simple as that? I'm talking about in the current time with the internet, social media, and everything. Is it still really as simple as that our beliefs are only our responsibility? We come up with our beliefs and it's as simple as that. Is it? Are the people in this story coming up with their beliefs in isolation? What is actually happening here? And that's something we need to investigate. Do you agree? Well, I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on this important subject. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.